Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're looking into something a little different. One of you sent us a Bengali language YouTube video and asked for, well, a deep dive.
Yeah, this one's generating a lot of buzz online.
It really is. The video claims to show an interview with, get this, Major Dalim, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is a pretty loaded name in Bangladesh's history.
Absolutely. And this video has become a bit of a flashpoint, I guess you could say, touching on history, politics, truth, and, I mean, the whole issue of what we can even believe online anymore.
Right. So just to bring everyone up to speed, Major Dom, big name, controversial figure, linked to the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman way back in '75.
A defining moment for sure. To really get the weight of this video, though, we need some context. Major Dalim, his past is complicated to say the least. Started in the Pakistan army, but then he defected to fight for Bangladesh's independence.
Sounds like a true patriot, right?
You'd think so. But then, well, he ends up dismissed from the Bangladesh army. Now, the exact reasons, they're a bit murky, but some sources say that he and some soldiers basically drove a truckload of troops from their cantonment, no authorization or anything, and they ended up at, guess where?
No way. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's residence.
Yep. So, clearly a man willing to bend the rules for his beliefs.
Definitely not afraid to take action. But how does this tie into the assassination itself?
Well, after the assassination, Major Dalim's the one who goes on the radio, announces it to the whole nation. Most reports say he was very much involved in the events of that day.
Okay, so complex figure, vanished from the scene, and then boom, this YouTube video appears decades later. What's this alleged Major Dalim even saying in the interview?
Two big things stand out. First, he directly addresses supporters of the August 5th coup, the event that led to the assassination. He calls on them to wake up, to keep going with their work. It's a strong statement, almost a call to action, like their mission isn't over.
That's intense. What's the second claim?
He's incredibly vague about where he's been, what he's been doing for the past 30 years, just no details, really. Adds to the mystery, fuels speculation.
Right, so the video itself is suspicious already. But you didn't just stop there. You dug deeper. What stood out as you looked at the evidence?
Well, you got to start with the basics, right? Physical appearance. Does this guy even look like Major Dalim from back in the 70s? And right away, red flags. The guy in the video, he seems much younger than Major Dalim would be if he was alive today. And the facial features, yeah, there are some similarities, but they don't quite line up.
Not the most convincing impersonation, then.
Like a bad Halloween costume, And it's not just how he looks. His body language, his whole demeanor, it's off.
How so?
Stiff. Eyes often fixed on one spot. Answers sound rehearsed, almost like he's reading from a script.
Not exactly the seasoned military man you'd expect. What about the interviewer? This Ilyas Hossein. Any reason to think he's trustworthy?
Honestly, that's where it gets even more questionable. Hossein's background, his history as a journalist, well, it raises serious concerns about the legitimacy of this whole thing. He's known for sensationalized reporting, and he was even convicted of making up stories, fabricating news for money. And get this, his father was a Razakar.
Okay, for those who might not know, what does that mean exactly?
It's a term for Bengalis who collaborated with the Pakistani army during the 1971 Liberation War.
Right, so already we got a lot of reasons to doubt this video. The alleged Major Dalim doesn't really look or act the part. The interviewer's got a shady past. So who is this guy? Did you find out?
Oh, we did. Turns out Major Dalim is actually a guy named Minhazul Arifin Siddiqui, goes by Minu, from Chittagong.
And his background?
Completely different from the real Major Dalim. No military experience, no connections to diplomacy or anything like that. And the best part? His Facebook profile. Let's just say, not what you'd expect from someone supposedly in hiding for decades.
Wait, so they found him on Facebook pretending to be this infamous figure?
Yep. And there are pictures online. You can actually see Minu before and after what they call special makeup to try and make him look like Major Dalim.
Wow, that's something else. Okay, so it's a hoax, but why? What's the point of all this?
Well, to understand that, we have to zoom out a bit, look beyond the video itself. It was released at a very particular time in Bangladesh. Rising political tensions, an election coming up, extremist groups making a comeback.
So this isn't just a prank, it's potentially a calculated move to mess with public opinion, to affect politics.
Exactly. Think about the implications here. This could deepen divisions that already exist, reopen old wounds, even help certain groups push their agenda.
And then there's the ethics of it all. Passing off a fake story as truth, especially when it comes to history, that's a big deal.
It really is. And we're just getting started.
You know, before we keep going with this, I have to admit this is getting a little unsettling. Talking about potential threats to government officials, it's not just online stuff anymore, is it?
No, it's definitely cause for concern. And what's even more alarming is that this might not be a one-off thing, you know? There's this whole trend, and it's growing, of using disinformation, these intimidation tactics, to basically silence anyone who disagrees, to weaken the rule of law. And it's not just happening in Bangladesh, it's global.
So it's bigger than just winning an election. It's about, like, controlling what people believe and shutting down anyone who questions their version of things.
Exactly. And the methods they're using, they're getting more sophisticated all the time. Deep fakes, fake news articles, whole social media campaigns, all designed to spread these lies. So, discord.
It's like a digital war zone out there.
Yeah.
And the first casualty, truth.
Powerful way to put it. And the worst part, most people have no idea how much they're being manipulated. They share something, like something, and it's all been carefully crafted to push them in a certain direction.
Like a virus, spreading through the internet, infecting people's minds.
Very apt analogy. And just like a virus, once it takes hold, it's hard to stop.
So what can we even do about it? How do we fight back against this onslaught of disinformation? How do we protect ourselves and make sure truth actually wins out?
It's a tough one. It's going to take a multi-pronged approach. First, we have to raise awareness. People need to know what's going on, what tactics are being used. Give them the tools to think critically, to be skeptical of sources, especially if those sources have an obvious bias.
It's like we need to be teaching digital self-defense.
Right. We got to develop that mental filter to block the harmful stuff, prevent manipulation.
But it can't all be on individuals, right? Shouldn't these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, shouldn't they be doing more to stop this stuff from spreading?
Absolutely. They have a responsibility, a moral obligation to make sure their users aren't being harmed, better fact-checking, more transparency about how their algorithms work, and they got to be faster at taking action against accounts that are spreading this false information.
Like they're the gatekeepers, and they need to be a lot more careful about who they let in, what they let spread.
Good way to think about it. But governments also have a role. Legislation that protects free speech, but also deals with the harmful stuff. And investing in media literacy programs, critical thinking skills.
So everyone's got to work together, individuals, the platforms, governments. But what about the people who are caught in the middle of all this? The ones being targeted, harassed?
You're right, we can't forget about them. They need support, protection, access to legal resources, and we need to make sure their voices are heard.
A safety net, basically, for those being attacked online.
Yeah, exactly. We have to create an environment where people feel safe, speaking out, speaking truth to power without fear of retaliation.
This is some heavy stuff. Disinformation, it's a real threat to democracy, no doubt. We all need to be vigilant. But is there any hope? Are we making any progress in this fight?
There's always hope. The challenges are real, but I'm actually optimistic. Awareness is growing, more people are getting involved, wanting to fight back.
People are waking up, realizing they can do something about it.
That's it. And we're seeing innovations in technology, in education, that are helping people be more discerning, to be more critical of the information they come across.
So it's not all doom and gloom. We can push back.
We can, but it takes constant vigilance, a real commitment to defending what's important, a free and open society.
This whole deep dive, it's really made me think about the information I see, how easily we can all be tricked.
It has for me too. Reminds us that knowledge is power, but only if it's real, if it's accurate.
Speaking of knowledge, we were talking about the alleged Major Dalim, his motives.
Yeah.
You found out some really shocking things. What can they tell us about the bigger picture about Bangladesh?
Yeah, good point. We know the guy in the video isn't the real Major Dalim, but why choose him? Why try to impersonate him? Why invoke his name, his whole legacy?
It's like they're tapping into something, some kind of nostalgia, right? Like things were better back then.
You're picking up on something important. Remember, Major Dalim, he's a divisive figure in Bangladesh. Some people see him as a hero, a patriot who fought against corruption. Others, they see him as a villain, a traitor.
So they're using his name to appeal to a certain group, people who see him in a positive light.
Exactly. They're playing on existing divisions, trying to rally support, classic divide and conquer.
But it's more than that, isn't it? It's psychological, too, this impersonation.
Oh, definitely. Creating this fake persona, they're projecting strength, authority, building a narrative, saying they're the ones carrying on Major Dalim's fight.
It's like they're trying to start a cult. but around this made-up figure.
Great analogy. And the danger is that people get caught up in that, the hero worship, and they can't see the truth anymore. Makes them easy to manipulate.
The power of symbols, narratives, it's incredible how they can shape what people believe.
It really is. And the people behind this video, they know exactly what they're doing.
So we've got a fake Major Dalim, a manufactured hero, being used to mess with public opinion, maybe even incite violence. It's scary to think how easily this could be used to justify attacks on democracy, on the rule of law.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. We're already seeing how this is being used to spread lies, attack critics. If it keeps going, it could have a chilling effect on free speech in Bangladesh.
Like they want to create an atmosphere of fear where people are too afraid to speak out.
A classic authoritarian tactic. Silence dissent, control the information.
This is really serious. But can we do anything? How do we counter this narrative? Expose the truth? Stop these tactics from working?
It's a huge task, but not impossible. First, we keep shining a light on these campaigns. Expose the people, the groups behind them.
Show the world who they really are.
Exactly. Make it clear that we won't tolerate this, the manipulation, the lies.
But it's not enough to just debunk the lies, right? We need a counter-narrative, something true, something compelling.
You got it. We have to remind people what really matters. The values of a democracy, freedom of speech, the rule of law, truth, justice.
Reclaim the narrative. Offer a different vision, a better one.
A vision worth fighting for, absolutely.
This deep dive, man, it's taken us to some dark places. But it's also shown us how strong people can be, the ones fighting for a better Bangladesh.
It's inspiring, isn't it? Even against all this, there's always someone willing to stand up for what's right.
Their courage is incredible, but we can't just sit back and watch. We all have a part to play in this.
We do. Support their work, amplify their voices, and be active. Defend truth, defend democracy.
This has been a real eye-opener. How easily we can be manipulated, it's kind of frightening.
It is, but it's also given us hope, right? Working together, we can overcome this, create a better world.
We're not done yet, though. There's more to uncover. Back in a bit with the final part of this deep dive. You know, thinking about everything we've talked about, there's one thing we haven't really dug into yet.
What's that?
We've talked about how this video is being used, to manipulate, to cause trouble. But the people making it, spreading it, what about them? What's driving them? Are they, true believers? Or are they just using this whole thing for their own benefit?
That's a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the message itself and forget about the actual people behind it, the ones making the choices. And it's complicated when you start looking at those choices.
What do you mean?
Well, look at the interviewer, Ilyas Hussein. He's got this whole history of, sensationalism, let's call it, questionable tactics, definitely for his own game. Convicted of making up news stories for money, that says a lot.
So for some people, it really is just about the money, getting attention, getting those clicks.
Yeah, unfortunately. But then there are others, and for them, it seems like it's more ideological. They actually believe they're carrying on Major Dalim's legacy, fighting against corruption, injustice, that kind of thing.
So a mix of, opportunists and true believers. That's a scary combination, especially when you think about how online communities work, those echo chambers.
Yeah, exactly. Online, it's so easy for extreme views to get reinforced. People get trapped in their own biases. It's like a hall of mirrors. Everything's distorted, but they think it's reality.
Which makes it even harder to fight back against these narratives, right? It's not just about facts anymore. It's about beliefs, emotions.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to talk, to actually listen to different viewpoints, to try and understand why people believe what they believe, even if we completely disagree.
Easier said than done, right? Especially these days, everyone's shouting their opinions online. It's hard to have a real conversation.
It is, but it's crucial. We can't just write off people who disagree with us as ignorant or bad. We have to find ways to connect, to build some kind of shared understanding, even if it's just a little bit of common ground.
So these mixed motives behind the video, the opportunists, the ideologues, how does that tie into the bigger picture, the political situation in Bangladesh?
Remember how we talked about the timing? How it seemed like the video was released specifically to influence the election?
Yeah, like dropping a bomb right when things were already tense.
Well, some people think this video, and maybe others like it, they're all part of a bigger plan. A campaign to damage the Awami League, make them look bad, and maybe even affect the election results.
So it's not just about attacking individuals, it's about going after the whole party.
Could be. And the way these videos are being shared by certain media outlets, by influencers, it suggests there are some powerful players involved.
Like a shadow campaign.
Mm.
running alongside the real one, but using propaganda, these online tactics.
Exactly. That's what makes it so difficult to deal with. It's hard to track, hard to hold anyone accountable. The old ways of doing things, they don't really work here.
A whole new battlefield. And the stakes are huge.
They are. This election, it could change everything for Bangladesh. The economy, security, its place in the world.
So what does this mean for people in Bangladesh? How do they deal with this whole messed up information environment?
Be critical. Be careful about your sources. If someone have an obvious agenda, be suspicious. And look for different perspectives. Don't just stick to one side of the story.
Simple advice, but probably more important now than ever.
Absolutely. It's about having that healthy skepticism, questioning what you see and hear, especially if it comes from someone who's always pushing a certain viewpoint.
This whole deep dive, what a journey. Started with a YouTube video, ended up talking about politics, manipulation, the power of the internet.
It has been fascinating. Really highlights how tough it is these days to figure out what's true, especially online.
We started with this video, someone claiming to be a controversial figure from history. Looked at the evidence, exposed the lies, talked about the consequences.
And it's amazing how this one video, it opened up this whole bigger story. The fight for truth, the struggle for power, all playing out online.
And it's not over, is it? New things are happening all the time.
That's the thing about the digital world. It's always changing. But we'll be here on Deep Dive trying to make sense of it all.
Keep asking those tough questions. Don't just accept what you see, and always, always keep searching for the truth.
Well said.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something, but more importantly, we hope you feel ready to think critically, to be more discerning in this crazy world we live in.